Before you start or sign a contract, let me help you figure out how to find the right installer and what you need to know about the solar tax credit so you don't miss out on the 30% of the cost of your system. The first big question is, should you install it yourself or hire a pro? If you're handy and comfortable with safe household wiring and your local jurisdiction allows homeowners to do electrical work, then do-it-yourself might be an option. It helps if you're working on a simple off-grid setup or a backup load subpanel that your utility treats like a generator. Those are usually pretty straightforward. But if your system will stay connected to the grid or if it's designed to sell power back to the grid, then you can expect more red tape. You'll be dealing with permits, inspections, and an interconnect agreement with your power company. That's where a good installer can be worth their weight in gold. They handle that process every day, and it's part of what you're paying them for. Even if you're allowed to do the work yourself, remember that connections between the power meter and your main service panel often have to be done by a licensed electrician. So check your local rules before you begin. And even if you're technically allowed, ask yourself if you are confident enough to wire this safely and have it pass inspection. If not, then hiring a pro will save you headaches. Now, there's also a gray area. Utilities don't usually have any requirements unless you're setting up a power system that is operating in parallel with their grid power. So what happens if your home is connected to the grid, which powers your main service panel, but you also have a backup load subpanel that's powered by your hybrid power system? And what if you set that power system to zero export mode, where it will not send power back to the utility, where the subpanel is essentially off-grid? What happens then? Well, that's kind of a gray area where you might get different answers from different utilities. I think most will play it conservative and call this a power system that is operating in parallel with the grid, which is going to require an interconnect agreement. But if you make a case for your system being set up in such a way that it cannot send power back to the main service panel, you might be able to save yourself some red tape and have your power system treated as if it were a backup generator. If they require an interconnect agreement, that's more work up front, but it also gives you flexibility to sell power back to them now or later. If they'll let you treat it like a generator, that's simpler, but you are more limited in what you can do with the excess power. You won't sell it back, but you can still cut your power bill by running that subpanel from your system every day. If your utility is strict, here are a few ways installers sometimes satisfy them. One is using the inverter's zero export setting that is locked behind an installer password where the end user cannot change it. Our Midnight Power all-in-one inverter has this feature. Another option is feeding grid power into one of the smart load inputs on our Midnight all-in-one inverter, and some others have a smart load function like that also, where it physically cannot backfeed to the grid. The power can only go one way. And a third option is putting a transfer switch on the input to your backup subpanel. So with a transfer switch, you've got one output and you've got two inputs. So one of those inputs is going to be from the grid and the other would be from your backup power system. And that way, your backup power would never be allowed to operate in parallel with grid power. It's just like when you set up a backup generator, except that the power source in your inverter is being used rather than just a fuel-powered generator. Your system will almost always need to be permitted and inspected by the local authority, otherwise known as the electrical inspector. Completely off-grid systems sometimes slip through the cracks under the radar, especially in remote areas where enforcement is difficult, but they still need to meet code. So contact your local electrical inspector early. Ask what the process looks like, what the paperwork they need, and whether they have any special rules for solar and battery installations. It's likely that they're going to require a simple line diagram of the layout of your power system to show where everything is going, detail the model numbers of each piece of equipment, and the size of wires, etc. Unless you're in a highly regulated area, this can often be a simple sketch on paper or a computer drawing. For instance, in the BlackoutProof resources page, I linked to this site where you can do your own for free, a nice professional looking drawing and everything, and come up with your own in just a few minutes. Just be aware though that some locations do require something from an engineer if it's in a highly regulated area, but hopefully yours isn't, and a lot of rural locations It's just a simple line drawing. If you do decide to tackle installation yourself, here's what that process actually looks like. You'll start by figuring out where the solar array is going to go and how wires will be routed. Then comes trenching and conduit, digging a hole for the post and pouring concrete. You could do all the outside stuff last if that works better, but if the weather's good, why not get it knocked out first? Then you'll mount the solar panels. This is us setting up our MT solar mount a number of years ago. The nice thing with this mount is that you can do almost all the bolting and wiring at ground level before you hoist it up. In your power room, you'll mount the inverter and battery rack, add disconnects, and wire in your backup load subpanel. And then you'll land all the conductors, your solar input, your AC in and out, neutral, ground, and torque everything to spec, and power up for testing. One thing to be aware of is the location of your power room. You'll need to check with your local authorities once you know the total size of your battery bank, which we figured out in one of the previous videos. And some jurisdictions are going to allow up to 40 kilowatt hours inside a home as long as it's in a utility room or basement or something like that. But if it's larger than 40 kilowatt hours, then it's possible that you might have to move it to a garage or an outbuilding where you could install potentially up to 80 kilowatt hours or more. For really large systems, though, you're going to need to see what additional requirements there might be. Hopefully your jurisdiction doesn't put you through any of this, but I just want you to be prepared that it could happen. So finally, you'll verify voltages, program charging settings, and if applicable, you'll enable the zero export mode on your inverter. When the inspector comes, you'll show that the system matches the plans, that everything is labeled, and that it operates safely. If you'd rather hire a pro, you've got two main options. The first is a turnkey solar company that designs, sells, installs, and services the whole system as one package. That's the easiest route for you, but you'll usually pay more and have limited equipment choices. In my personal opinion, most turnkey companies focus on grid-tied systems with the battery backup part almost as an afterthought, but I'm sure there are some exceptions out there. Second option, and the one that I personally prefer, is a local electrician or installer who's open to working with the equipment you choose. They might charge you by the hour, or they might give you a project price. It's often the most flexible and economical route, and it lets you use brands and designs that you want, as long as the installer is comfortable with it. Depending on the installer, you may need to handle things like trenching or setting the solar mount posts in concrete while they take care of the electrical side. But some of them will be happy to do everything. Just depends on the company and whether you're trying to save some money. Now, how do you find a good installer? My first stop is the solar installer directory that you see on your screen. I linked to it on the BlackoutProof resources page, and it's the best nationwide list I've found. Just go to getblackoutproof.com to get access to that on the resources page. And you'll want to filter by your state and then set the battery storage to yes and choose small installations so you don't get utility scale companies. Then visit the websites of the ones that remain and look for any mentions of backup or off-grid system installs, not just conventional grid tie. That's really what you're looking for. Call a few of these and explain what you want to do and see if they have any experience with installing hybrid backup systems with batteries. On the BlackoutProof resources page, I've put together a one-page call script that you can use when talking to installers to make that conversation easier and to help you identify the better options. You can also ask your local electrical supply house, the place where your electricians go to get their electrical supplies. You can call them up and ask them which electricians that they're aware of who regularly install solar backup systems with batteries. And then the third option is you can do a Google search for solar equipment retailers in your area. I'm talking about companies that carry brands like Midnight Solar, SolarArc, Outback, companies like this, and then ask them if they know of any good installers in the area. Now let's talk about the part that's on everyone's mind, the solar tax credit. And a quick disclaimer here, I'm not a tax professional, so always check with yours for advice specific to your situation. But here's my layman's understanding of how it works. The federal solar tax credit, officially called the Residential Clean Energy Credit, gives you a dollar-for-dollar reduction on your income tax equal to 30% of the cost of a qualifying system. Here's the form 5695. My understanding is this includes your solar panels, inverter, batteries, racking, wiring, balance of system components, and even design and installation labor. And yes, standalone battery systems qualify too, even without solar, as long as the battery capacity is at least 3 kilowatt hours, which isn't going to be hard to do. It's a true credit, not a deduction, which means it directly reduces the amount of tax you owe. If you spend $10,000 on your equipment and labor, then you get $3,000 off your tax bill. If your credit is larger than your tax bill this year, you can carry the remainder forward to next year. Just remember, it doesn't apply to self-employment tax, just to personal income tax. So you'll still have to pay the self-employment portion if you owe any. Now, here's the big catch. To claim the credit, your system must be installed and placed in service by December 31, 2025. The actual language from the law says, quote, "The credit allowed under this section shall not apply with respect to any expenditures made after December 31, 2025, unquote. Now, some folks thought this means that they only have to buy it by the end of the year, but the IRS released a Q&A document with their interpretation, and it asks this question, quote, "Can a credit be claimed for property installed after December 31, 2025, or constructed after that date if a taxpayer pays for the property on or before December 31, 2025, unquote. So that was the question. Now here's their answer. No. Section 25D such and such provides that expenditure with respect to an item is treated as made when the original installation of the item is completed. If an installation is completed after December 31, 2025, the expenditure will be treated as made after December 31, 2025, which will prevent the taxpayer from claiming the Section 25D credit. So in other words, don't wait until December to start. And one gray area that people ask about, what if your system is physically finished, but you're waiting on inspection? Well, there's no official IRS guidance on that scenario, but if you can document that installation was completed before the deadline and it's just pending inspection, I think you could make a good case. Still, your safest bet is to have the final sign-off before December 31. And as quickly as you can, get your permits submitted and order any long lead items like racking, batteries, inverters, stuff like that. That'll get you rolling in the right direction. And you can find all the links I mentioned, the installer directory, the call script, the tax credit form, and more on the BlackoutProof resources page at getblackoutproof.com. And while you're there, use the backup power tool to see which type of power system fits your home and whether you qualify for a free consult with me. Since we're talking timing, here's a quick timeline to stay on track. This month, decide whether to do it yourself or hire it out. If you're hiring, then start calling installers now so you can secure someone before everyone else rushes at the end. You know how that goes.